Hello everybody, Mitzi Cruz here, host of Lincoln Live, and we are so excited to be here live with Doug Lee, and I'm going to let you tell him his title so I don't mess it up because it's a new title.
Yes, as of July 1st, I'm Lincoln's Public Safety Chief.
And so, what does that entail?
Basically, it's one title that covers both the police department and the fire department. So I was the police chief since January of 17, and then I took on the additional role of overseeing the fire department as well. And so public safety chief encompasses both those roles.
Gotcha. And can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. So I started my public safety career, if you will, as a volunteer firefighter when I was 18 years old. And I had always had an interest in it. I mean, it goes back to when I was a kid riding my bike. I would hear the volunteer fire alarm sounding in the small town I was growing up in, and I'd race off and try to follow the fire engines to the fire and watch them do their thing. So as soon as I was eligible, I became a volunteer firefighter. While I was doing that, I put myself through the Sacramento Sheriff's Training Academy, and so then I was a reserve deputy sheriff. So I started testing at both places. I tested to be a cop, tested to be a firefighter, and I figured whoever hired me first is where I would end up. I got hired on the law enforcement side first, but I know that I would have been equally as happy and it would have been as equally rewarding as well to have a career in the fire service. I just ended up on the law enforcement side. So this is kind of a full circle thing for me to be able to get back and be in touch with the fire side toward the end of my career. So had a great career with the Sacramento Sheriff's Office. I was there for 31 years. I rose through the ranks there. When I retired from there in 2015, I was the chief deputy over patrol and detectives, Homeland Security, and all the fun stuff. I had SWAT, K-9, bomb squad, boats, all the fun stuff fell underneath me there. I retired to take a job with the state of California. I was appointed by the governor to oversee Homeland Security efforts at the governor's Office of Emergency Services. And I did that for almost a year and a half. And the one thing, it was a great job, a great mission at that office, but I had zero contact with the public. I was working in somewhat of a vault because we dealt with some classified information. And so I spent my days inside an office and never got to be involved with the community at all. And I really missed that part of my job. And so I gave it a year and decided that I didn't see myself doing that for much longer. So
Sure.
Right when I started looking, Lincoln PD was looking for a chief. And so I'm very fortunate to have been selected to work in this community. So.
Yeah, and I know that the community has been extremely receptive, and everybody's really excited that you've come on this role, and now you're taking on even more, which is really awesome. So walk us through kind of what your day looks like, and it kind of encompassing the whole.
Sure. A little backdrop on the fire department side. So we had a shared services agreement with Rockland for the last 3 years, and that came to an end on June 30th. I told our interim city manager back in January or so that I'd be willing to fill in as an interim until we were able to hire a fire chief. And so I'm not sure how interim will be, but I was glad to be able to do this. So I started my first month. I spent a shift, several days over there. I spent a day with each shift at each station. So that takes 9 times to catch each crew at each of the 3 stations. And so spent the day with them and got to know them better and rode with them, learned a little bit about what they do each day. I still have a lot to learn. I mean, I've mentioned my volunteer fire role that I had 30-something years ago, not to imply that I have any kind of expertise in the fire service, but to show that my interest and my respect for them goes way back. And so
Right.
This wasn't, I don't want to say typical cop, but there's some banter back and forth between cops and firefighters. 95% of it's friendly, and then probably a little bit of reality to their opinions about that. So I share that so that people know that I really do respect them and what they do. So I look forward to being able to serve them as best I can over these next however long it lasts. So a typical day, I pick where I'm going to be that day based on where my meetings are. If I have like city council tonight, so I'm doing, and with this, more police type thing today, so I wear the police uniform and I come to my police office. Tomorrow I'll probably be in my fire uniform and I'll be over at my office at the fire station, and so it just varies back and forth, but both sides are used to seeing me in both uniforms now after a couple months of this, so it's fun.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. And how many fire stations do we have around Lincoln that are actually up and operational?
So we have 3. All 3 are operational now. For a period of time, one of them was closed down,
Right.
and what the decision was made sometime back to open all 3 of them, but with reduced staffing. So there's no increase in staffing. So with 6 people that are on duty, instead of having 3 at 2 different stations, we have 2 people at 3 stations. And so That's one of the 3 shifts. So there's 18 captains and engineers. And so there are 3 operational stations in the city. Not ideal. I mean, not the number of staff at each station is not ideal, and that'll be a priority for us to get the staffing there and at the police department up closer to where they should be. And if I could see progress in that over the next few years, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, and I know you guys are working really hard on that. One of the things that I really appreciated was getting the introduction to you and to the city and the way that everything works through the Leadership Lincoln class, through taking advantage of that. And I know they just got started, so I don't even know if you guys have had that class on public safety and things like that yet. But
not yet for the new class, no.
No, but it's extremely interesting and just to see the dynamics, because of course, as the public, all we see is just the one side, so we don't really understand the intricacies and things like that. So I know you guys are working really hard on that. So.
We are, yeah. And right now, I'm very confident with the level of dedication that our elected officials and our key staff, department heads, and our city manager and city attorney, everyone at City Hall right now does understand what a priority public safety should be, both police and fire. And so I'm confident and hopeful that we're going to make progress in those areas. So.
Yeah, I know that my family and we've been here since 2006, and it's just been such a wonderful community. And so everything that's happening right now, it's working. It's a great place to live and a great place to raise kids. So I think all in all that's the big picture, and everything else is just kind of the details and working through that.
It is.
Yeah. So tell us about, I know you've got a fundraiser that's coming up. Tell us about that.
We do. So last year we decided to participate in the Pink Patch Project for the first time. And this was an initiative that was started in Southern California down at Seal Beach probably 5 years ago or so. And the department decided to wear a pink version of the shoulder patch during the month of October, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to show their support. And the public asked if they could buy them, and so they started selling the patches and then giving the proceeds from the sales to either a local or a national cancer foundation. And so that has grown to hundreds of agencies, actually outside of the country even now. And so we started doing that. So our patch, pink version of the Lincoln PD patch, we sold those last year. And we were able to obtain donations to buy our first allotment of the patches, and we also had a little lapel pin as well for people. And so we had people that paid for our first order of those, so that when we sold them, it was pure profit. So we ended up with, I think, 400 patches and 100 pins. And so of those 500, we sold like 330 of them. We sell them $10 a piece. So we are going to be giving a check to the American Cancer Society for $3,300.
Wow.
And then now we just wanted to start again, order some more patches to kick off and get ready for this October, and reach out to a few people. And through the generosity, extreme generosity of some people here in Lincoln, we're going to be able to order more patches, more pins, and probably some coins and T-shirts as well this time.
Cool.
With all the money going to the American Cancer Society. So yeah, it's really nice. And then in October again, we'll switch out to the uniforms with the pink patches again to show our support.
Very good. Oh, I love that. And I'm so glad that we're doing this interview now, so we're ahead of that.
Great timing, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've done a couple other things too. Last week we held our second Coffee with a Cop, which is an opportunity for us to go out and meet with the community. And I don't go to that. I stuck my head in the door first just to see how it was going and see the setup that they had done. But it's not intended for them to come and talk to me. It's for the public to talk to the street officers about concerns they have in their neighborhood, and just have an interactive dialogue with no agenda. And so we'll do them more often. We did one last year, and all of a sudden it had been like 8 months since we had done one, which we vowed to do it more often than that. So hopefully we will stick to our word this time and do them more often.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's so important, to have that. And I love the fact that the Lincoln Police Department has such a strong social media presence and things like that. So there's a lot of interaction, that's able to go back and forth between the community. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important that we are as transparent as possible with what we're doing. We push out the weekly crime summary that kind of shows the highlights of the week and
right.
the arrests that we've made and so forth, so that people have an idea of what's going on in the community.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's wonderful. So you've seen the show, and we like to be extremely interactive and allow our audience the opportunity to ask questions, make comments, and I'm sure that we've got some questions. Sabina?
So how do you like working in Lincoln versus Sacramento?
I love it. So I'm going to use this as a perfect example. When I was working in a big government agency, it probably would have taken forming a committee, looking at this, looking at that, figuring out how we're going to fund it, doing all kinds of things before we could even present it to higher level people and get approval to do it. And here I said, we're going to do this,
right?
And we do it. I mean, so at this, there's so many fewer levels of in the organization chart and so forth, and I'm also trusted to be able to allow to run my department without having to ask for permission for everything I want to do.
Right.
But I got the experience in the big city, and then was able to bring that here. And to work in a community that is so supportive of public safety. I mean, Placer County in general is conservative and very supportive, and not just police, but fire as well. We enjoy a very high level of support, and I can't even imagine working anywhere else right now. It's a fantastic community to work in, and then the support that I have from my bosses and the elected officials as well. So very, very fortunate and very happy to be here.
Right, so people are happy with the weekly crime report, but what do you think? Like, is crime increasing or decreasing? Lincoln is developing.
We talked about the social media part. When I got here, I really wanted to put out as much information as I could on social media, and I learned a lesson for which I owe people an apology for. I went overboard with it. I started pushing out arrests, a lot more arrests than some of the surrounding communities, because when we would post something about an arrest, and all people would say, "Oh, good job, glad you arrested this person."
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, that's what they want to hear, and so I started pushing more of that out. Well, if I step back and take a look at it, it looked like we had more crime than Rockland and Roseville and surrounding Placer County, because look at all these people in Lincoln that get arrested.
Right.
But in fact, it was just me pushing out more information.
Right.
So I stepped that back quite a bit, and I saved that for the bigger, more important arrests. Crime is we're lucky we have a very safe community here. Crime is against people, which is what I would look at first if I was looking to see if my community is safe.
Right.
Rapes, robberies, homicides, and so forth. Felony assaults, those are very low here. We're fortunate. And that's just the community that we're surrounded by. And property crimes, we're probably average with the surrounding communities, the burglaries and petty thefts and things like that. One of the challenges that law enforcement has now is some of the laws that have changed. They've really hampered our ability to address some of those things.
Yes.
Possession of methamphetamine and heroin and cocaine and grand theft was changed from $400 value to $950 value, and so we have people that will run into Lowe's or Home Depot or something, grab an $800 item and run out the door, and it's a misdemeanor. We write them a ticket for it.
Right.
It's an arrest technically, but they don't go to jail like they used to.
Right.
And so some of those things cause an increase in those types of crimes. You've seen on the news the Altas have been hit all through Northern California.
Yeah.
And whether that's one group that's organized or a number of copycats, but they're in and out of there so fast, and the staff, rightfully so, is not going to go tackle them on their way out the door. It's property, but these people know that, and so those skew the numbers. It makes it look like there's more crime than there is, but very lucky in this community.
Yeah, no, like I was talking offline, I grew up in Sacramento, and the difference is definitely night and day. And Sacramento's great; it's got its different things. So, but I just feel very fortunate that my children have grown up here and they know nothing else besides Lincoln. It's very awesome. Yeah, and it's funny. I was driving through Wheatland one time, and I stopped at the that gas station there, and they've got food and things like that, and there were a couple officers that were there, and they were eating at one of the tables, and I overheard one of the other officers saying to the other that they had come from Sacramento and that they were so bored.
Bored is a good thing in our line of work.
Absolutely, yes. I'll take it.
Yep.
Yeah. So did we have any additional questions, comments?
I'll add a couple things. I want to say that we couldn't do this without the help that we have from our volunteers here.
Yes.
We have a very robust volunteer program. We hovered around 35 or so volunteers, and we have two different classifications of them. We have some that go out in the field and they write the parking tickets and And they do vacation checks for people. Let's say you're going to be gone for a week or two and you want us to keep an eye on your house. They'll do frequent drive-bys of your residence while you're on vacation.
Oh, nice.
And then if they see something out of the ordinary, open garage door, front door, something, then they'll call back here and a police officer will check it out. So we have those people that work in the field, and then we have a cadre of them that work here in the office that help with a variety of tasks. Like usually the front counter is usually staffed by a volunteer. We absolutely could not function without them. So always looking for volunteers. If there are people in the community that are looking for something meaningful to do with where they can be of service, this is always an option for them.
That's great. You guys heard it here. So how would they go about taking advantage of that?
We have a link on our website. So I think it's under the heading of Be Involved or Get Involved or something. And there's some information on there. And either a phone number or an email address as well, where they can reach out to us and ask some questions. So
perfect. And how do they go about purchasing one of the patches?
These will be for sale at the front counter at any time. So they're $10 each. We probably are about out of, or we are out of the pins, but we're ordering another batch right now. So we'll be ready for October, but we'll have a supply of them before then. So
perfect.
We appreciate the support of everybody who's purchased them and everybody who will purchase them.
Well, and actually that brings me to the raffle. So tell us about the raffle prize.
Yeah, so like you requested to see if I could come up with something to raffle. So I have one of the patches and one of the little lapel pins. I guess we could say these are about to be coveted because we're almost out of them, or we are out of them.
Sure.
They sold really quickly. For people that don't wear the patch, we have a lot of employees and the volunteers who wear a polo shirt, so they're able to wear the pin, but we sold them to the public as well. So with that.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
You bet.
So you guys know how this works. You'll just share this live video, you'll comment shared, and then as long as you do that by noon tomorrow, you will be entered into the raffle for one of these awesome prizes. And good luck to everybody who is watching and who is going to take advantage of that. And then did you have any final thoughts or anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
We discussed a few minutes ago about what's been rewarding for me in this career.
Yes.
Yeah, so first I want to say I'm very fortunate. This next month will be 35 years that I've been in law enforcement, and that's a lot longer than a lot of people work. They usually stop at about 30 or 25, and I still look forward to going to work every day, so I'm very lucky. And if that stops, something changes with that, then maybe it's time for me to reevaluate continuing to work, but I don't see that happening over the next few years while I'm working here.
Yeah.
I did want to share one of the most rewarding things I've done as a law enforcement officer, though, is the efforts to make sure that we remember our fallen officers.
Yes.
And I've had the honor of participating in a number of events with that in mind. We participated in a bike ride on the East Coast where we raised money for the National Memorial. There's a National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. And so it's called the Police Unity Tour, and there are about 2,500 of us that meet on the East Coast in different cities, and we all cycle into Washington, D.C. We arrive there on the same day, so it's quite a sight to be involved in that. And then we also raise money for the memorial while we're doing that. So, and I've been involved with the state memorial here and some local memorial issues, and we have parents of a fallen officer that live here in Lincoln, and so I've met them through those efforts, and they're wonderful people. And so all the things that I've done, all the opportunities I've had, that has been the most rewarding for me in my entire career. So making sure that those families know that we'll never forget their loved ones. Up above us, the sign for Shellbach Drive.
Yes.
Les Shellbach was killed in the line of duty here in Lincoln in 1971, and years ago they named that street after him. And one of our employees saw in a neighboring city close by here where they had done a special sign for the street that they'd named after their fallen officer. And so I proposed it, and city council approved it, and it was just that quick. We got it done. We got the thin blue line version of the street sign with the Lincoln PD logo on it, and held a ceremony. We invited his widow, was out there when we did that. So it's just little things like that are just very rewarding to be able to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
One of the best parts about the job.
Yeah, I'm so glad, because I know we talked offline about, I was going to ask you for a story, and so I'm so glad that you shared that. And can you guys see on the camera?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Let me adjust one more thing really quickly.
Yes.
On your notice, hey, watch tomorrow as we interview Chief Lee. You said something about putting his life on the line every day or something. Yeah. Let me make it clear that some days my most likely injury I may suffer is a paper cut. The people who are out on the street, in the car, handling the calls for service,
Yeah.
they're putting their life on the line every day. And I did my time doing that, and I've had the opportunities to promote, and I don't do that anymore. I'm out there a little bit, but those are the ones who should get the recognition, and I always throw it their way because they're the ones that I respect the most.
Yeah, I know, and it's it's a difficult time, I think, right now to be a law enforcement officer, because you've got the internet and social media, and it's perpetuating this disrespect and disregard. And so, I don't want to go too deep into that. It's just,
But it is easy to say we're not perfect, and there are when an officer makes a mistake. There was one in Los Angeles the other day. He did something very stupid, and it reflects poorly on all of us.
Yeah.
Other professions don't suffer that same fate. If your postal service delivery person is arrested for drunk driving, it doesn't make the front page of the paper. But if I did, it'd be on the front page of the paper. And so we're held to a different standard, and rightfully so, in many degrees. It is the age of social media.
Yeah.
Everything is available to everybody.
Yeah, it hurts my heart to see, because like you said, that people are people, no matter what they do for a living. But it just creates such division, and it's so anyway, much respect to you, as well as all of the officers that are out there putting their life on the line each and every day, because it would be chaos without you guys. Our society as we know it would not function. And so I certainly appreciate it. And
thank you. Firefighters as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And my husband was a volunteer firefighter as well in Wildland for a while. So
excellent.
Yeah. So.
Great.
Well, anyway, I want to just thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks for agreeing to do the interview.
Sure.
And we appreciate you guys watching, and be sure to share our live video and be interested into the raffle. And next week we will see you live with Tom and Jury. He is our new executive director with the Chamber, and we're going to talk more about some upcoming events such as the Showcase, the Lincoln Showcase. Tickets are on sale now. Don't miss out. Buy your tickets. So thanks again, and thank you guys for watching. Have a good week.